If you've ever walked through an Amish farm market in midsummer, you've seen them. Tomatoes so large they look like they've been pulled from a fairy tale. These are just vegetables. They are heavy, ruby red masterpieces with a flavor that modern supermarkets simply cannot replicate. But how do they do it? How do they grow these massive heirlooms without modern chemicals, synthetic sprays, or high-tech labs? It isn't magic. It's a simple, centuries-old philosophy. The Amish don't just grow plants. They build soil and engineer the plant's biology. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on the specific, chemical-free secrets they use to turn a tiny seedling into a garden giant. The first secret happens the moment the plant touches the dirt. While most gardeners plant their tomatoes at the same level they were in the pot, the Amish use a technique called trench planting. Instead of a deep vertical hole, which often places the roots in cold, compacted subsoil, they dig a horizontal trench about 4 inches deep. They strip the lower leaves, every branch except the very top cluster, and lay the entire seedling on its side, gently curving the top 2 inches upward toward the sun. Why? Because a tomato plant is biologically unique, those tiny fuzzy hairs you see on the stalk are actually adventitious roots in waiting. By burying 8 or 10 inches of the stem horizontally in the warm, oxygen-rich topsoil, the plant develops a massive, lateral root net rather than a cramped, circular root ball. This is a deliberate engineering choice. In the top few inches of soil, the biological activity is at its peak. This is where the microbes live and where the compost tea penetrates most effectively. By the time the plant is a foot tall, it doesn't just have a root system, it has a high-performance engine. This wide, shallow network can drink 3 times more water during a summer heat wave and scavenge for nutrients across a much larger surface area than a standard plant. In the world of the Amish giant, the fruit is simply a reflection of what's happening beneath the surface. You cannot build a skyscraper on a sidewalk foundation, and you cannot grow a 2-pound tomato without a massive sprawling root system to fuel it. The Amish avoid chemical fertilizers because they don't want to force-feed the plant a burst of synthetic nitrogen that leaves the soil depleted. Instead, they want to feed the soil so the soil can sustain the plant. They use what they call soil gold. This starts with well-aged livestock manure, usually from horses or cows, composted for at least a full year until the heat of decomposition has killed off weed seeds, and the material is as dark, odorless, and crumbly as chocolate cake. But the real power isn't just in the solid compost, it's in the biological activation. To create a fast-acting tonic, they fill a burlap sack with this manure and steep it in a barrel of rainwater for several days, stirring it occasionally to introduce oxygen. This liquid gold, or compost tea, becomes a living broth of beneficial fungi and bacteria. When poured at the base of the plant every 2 weeks, it doesn't just provide nutrients, it inoculates the root zone with a defensive army of microbes that protect the plant from disease. To specifically engineer a giant fruit, they supplement this tea with 2 critical minerals. First, they incorporate crushed eggshells, not just sprinkled on top, but often pulverized into a fine dust and mixed into the planting hole. This provides a steady, slow-release stream of calcium. Calcium is the structural cement of the plant world. It prevents the dreaded blossom end rot and allows the tomato's cellular walls to remain elastic enough to stretch to massive proportions without bursting. Second, they use wood ash from their stoves. Rich in potassium, this ash acts as the sugar mover, directing the carbohydrates produced in the leaves straight into the fruit, which fuels both the incredible size and the deep, complex sweetness. Finally, they add a secret catalyst, unsulfured molasses. By adding just a splash to their watering buckets, they provide a hit of simple sugars that acts like rocket fuel for the soil's microbial life. This sudden spike in energy causes the bacteria to work overtime, breaking down organic matter and making the minerals in the earth immediately bioavailable. In the Amish garden, you aren't just pouring water, you are managing a complex living ecosystem where the ground stays alive and the nutrients are always ready for the roots to claim them. To get a giant tomato, you have to convince the plant it is only allowed to have a few children. Biologically, a tomato plant is an opportunist. Left alone, it will waste its finite energy growing a chaotic jungle of hundreds of leaves and dozens of tiny average fruits. The Amish, however, practice a disciplined form of aggressive sucker pruning to redirect that life force. They look specifically for the suckers, those tiny ambitious shoots that emerge in the V-shaped junction between the main vertical stem and the horizontal leaf branches. If left to grow, these suckers become secondary stems, demanding their own share of water and nutrients. The Amish snap these off by hand when they are no more than 2 inches long. By maintaining just a single main leader, they transform the plant from a bushy shrub into a high-speed vertical highway, where every ounce of sun-captured energy, every drop of water, and every gram of sugar is fast-tracked to the fruit clusters. But the real mastery lies in the terminal pinch. Most gardeners let their plants grow until the first frost kills them. But the Amish know when to say enough. Once the plant has set 3 or 4 prime clusters of fruit, they perform a final, surgical nip at the very top of the plant, removing the growing tip or the terminal bud. This sends a powerful hormonal signal through the entire vascular system. It tells the plant that its upward journey is over, and its reproductive legacy depends entirely on the fruit already on the vine. The plant stops investing in new height and foliage and begins a massive energy dump into the existing tomatoes. It is a calculated trade-off. You sacrifice the quantity of 100 small tomatoes for the legendary, concentrated size of a few giants. You are essentially forcing a season's worth of growth into just a handful of ruby-red titans. As these tomatoes approach their peak, they enter their most vulnerable phase. A giant tomato is essentially a high-pressure vessel. Its skin is stretched to its absolute limit by a massive internal volume of juice and pulp. To prevent the heartbreaking midsummer split, where a sudden rain or heat spike causes the fruit to burst, the Amish deploy a thermal shield. They lay down thick, 6-inch mats of clean wheat or oat straw around the entire base of the plant. This isn't just for weed control, it's about root zone stasis. Tomato plants are highly sensitive to soil temperature fluctuations. If the sun bakes the earth and the roots get too hot, the plant enters a panic state, closing its pores and halting the flow of sugar to the fruit. To conserve its own life, the straw acts as an organic insulator, keeping the roots cool and the moisture levels as steady as a heartbeat. This consistent environment ensures the fruit expands slowly and evenly, allowing the skin to grow in tandem with the pulp. But the physical weight of a giant presents its own set of engineering challenges. When a single tomato begins to push past the 2-pound mark, it becomes a literal deadweight that can snap even the sturdiest branch. More subtly, the heavy fruit can cause the vine to kink or sag, which pinches the vascular tissue, the plant's internal plumbing. To solve this, the Amish use fruit slings. They take scraps of soft cotton, old burlap, or cheesecloth and create small breathable hammocks tied directly to the support stake. By cradling the tomato in its own sling, they take the mechanical stress off the vine. This keeps the plant's vines wide open and uncrushed, allowing the nutrient-rich sap to flow into the fruit 24 hours a day without restriction. It is this final act of care, supporting the fruit so the plant doesn't have to, that allows an Amish giant to reach its maximum genetic potential without the vine collapsing under the weight of its own success. Finally, you need the right genetics. The Amish paste or Brandywine heirlooms have been bred for generations for one thing: excellence. Growing like the Amish isn't just a set of instructions, it's a lesson in patience. It's about working with nature's strength instead of trying to outsmart it with a lab. Treat your soil like a treasure, prune with a purpose, and you might just grow a giant of your own. So hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video from Gardening Discovery.